Surprising my wife with flowers turned into walking in on her affair. But the real horror came after I moved on, when she hunted us in a parking lot and ran my girlfriend over. I thought I knew what betrayal felt like. I'd lived through the casual betrayals of life. A friend who ghosts, a coworker who backstabs, a parent who forgets a birthday. But none of that prepares you for walking into your own bedroom, flowers in hand, and catching the love of your life mid-affair. Not just with anyone, but with someone who looked at me like I was interrupting his lunch. 6 years of marriage. And she didn't even flinch. Her name is Carolyn. 35, charming, magnetic, the kind of woman who could make strangers tell her secrets at the grocery store. We met on Instagram. Funny enough, she followed me first. Back then, I was so sure she was a gift from the universe. I double-checked everything before proposing. How she treated waiters, stress, money, kids. She passed all my tests. It felt like I'd finally broken the cycle my parents had cursed me with. My dad, who stuck around through all of mom's verbal abuse and 3 a.m. plate-throwing rage, because he thought love meant endurance. I promised myself I'd never end up like him. And yet here I was. I had tried everything to save us. Every petty argument, about the dishes, my job, the wrong brand of coffee, I swallowed it. I suggested therapy. Carolyn cried in the first session, accused the therapist of assaulting her, and stormed out. I excused it. Her father had died, and grief makes people act weird, right? But nothing justified what I saw that afternoon. I had flown home early from a business expo after a server meltdown at the office. Thought I'd surprise her. Purple orchids in hand, her favorite. Some champagne, fancy chocolates. I was actually smiling in the Uber like some deluded Hallmark husband. I remember thinking, maybe this would reset us. Maybe she'd look at the flowers and remember who we used to be. I heard the playlist first, the one she only played when she was in a good mood. That should have been a red flag. Then the 2 wine glasses in the sink. Still, my dumb romantic brain rationalized it. Maybe she had a friend over. Maybe she was happy for once. Maybe this was the first good day in months. Then I opened our bedroom door. He didn't even stop. She didn't either. It was like watching strangers in my own house. Our bed, our linens, the same sheets we'd talked about naming kids under. I think the moment the orchids slipped from my fingers was the precise second I stopped being her husband. Because that was the moment I realized she didn't even care enough to pretend. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shocked. She wasn't even sorry. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Why are you even back?" Like I disrupted her day. I didn't hit him. I thought I might. But instead, I grabbed his shirt collar and gave him 2 open-palm slaps like a housewife in a 1950s soap opera. That was worse, honestly. His expression shifted from fear to disgust, as if I was the joke. I let him go. He wasn't the one who made vows. Carolyn, still buttoning her blouse, couldn't even meet my gaze in the mirror. She just straightened her hair. I remember that damn mirror. I'd installed it for her because she said it had better lighting. That's how personal everything was. She muttered something about me not calling ahead, like I'd skipped a restaurant reservation. She said, "You weren't supposed to be back." And I realized then, she wasn't sorry I saw it. She was sorry her timing got messed up. I felt something in me split. 6 years. And the only thing she cared about was how inconvenient it was that I ruined her afternoon quickie. I almost hit her. My fist was up. My hand around the collar of the shirt I bought her for her birthday just last month. But then I saw her eyes, real fear. And I remembered my dad. I remembered how mom used to look at him when she screamed, how even when he never hit her, the threat of it lived in the air. I wasn't going to be that man. I let go. She immediately flipped the script. Accused me of being violent. Called me not a man. And maybe I wasn't. Not the kind she wanted anyway. Because I still believed in loyalty. I still believed in fixing things. I believed in purple orchids and second chances and the possibility of coming home early to save something. She believed in lies. That's when I knew I'd been married to a stranger. And that stranger wanted to make me the villain in her story. I didn't cry. You'd think catching your wife cheating would shatter something that way. Like in movies, when the guy collapses on the floor and weeps into the carpet. But I didn't. I drove to my best friend Mark's house, sat on his beat-up leather couch, and told him everything in a voice so calm it scared both of us. He didn't ask questions, just poured me whiskey and muttered, "Let's ruin her." That was the first real kindness I'd felt in weeks. Mark had gone through a divorce 2 years earlier. His wife cleaned out his 401k, took the dog, and called him a narcissist on Facebook. He'd been warning me about Carolyn for months in that infuriating, quiet way. I think he knew before I did. Still, he didn't say I told you so. He just told me to document everything. You're gonna need it, he said. This isn't over. He was right. That night, Carolyn sent me a text that started with, "You ruined everything," and spiraled into an unhinged Yelp review of our sex life. She told me her boyfriend had ruined her for other men, that I'd never satisfied her, that she'd spent years pretending. The word pretending cracked something inside me. I read it, then read it again, like maybe I'd misread the punctuation. But no, that's what she'd said. The same woman who used to leave notes in my lunchbox. The woman who used to giggle when I mispronounced sushi menus. Now she was rating my performance like a mattress she regretted buying. Mark made me screenshot everything. She's gonna delete those. Trust me. And within minutes, she did. The messages disappeared like she'd never written them, but the damage was permanent. My phone was now an archive of infidelity and cruelty, a forensic museum of how love corrodes into ego. And that's when I realized something strange. This wasn't just a woman cheating. This was a woman who needed to win. I remembered something from a fight months earlier, when she'd screamed at me for forgetting to fill up her gas tank. "Do you want me to break down somewhere and get murdered?" she'd yelled. "Is that your plan?" It made no sense. I'd forgotten, sure. But her tone, that wasn't forgetfulness. That was warfare. Carolyn didn't want a divorce. She wanted a war story. She wanted to be the victim. It hit me like a punch to the gut. She wanted me to hit her. That day in the bedroom, when my fist clenched, when she whispered, "You're not a man," she was baiting me, trying to turn me into the villain so she could collect her Oscar and run crying to the cops with bruises and half my paycheck. She wasn't just cheating. She was calculating. And I almost gave her what she wanted. When I told Mark, he didn't even blink. "She's setting you up, man." My ex did the same thing. Told people I was abusive, wanted full custody and half my business. I bought cameras. Covered every angle. Cameras. Jesus. I went home the next day, not to speak, just to collect clothes. And the first thing I noticed was the smell. The room still stank of wine and sex and the cheap cologne that man had worn. Our bedroom had been sterilized of memory. I walked past the purple orchid petals still smashed on the carpet and into the bathroom to collect my razor and shaving cream. And that's when I found it. Her phone, left charging on the bathroom counter. Unlocked. I shouldn't have looked. But of course I did. It wasn't just one guy. There were messages from 4 different men. One named Z. Another saved under Work Hubby. One thread included photos, explicit ones, from our bedroom, our shower, even the guest room. Dates overlapped with girls' night and yoga. She had turned our home into her playground. And I'd been footing the bill. But what made me sickest wasn't the sex. It was the messages she'd sent to them about me. "He's so passive. It's like being married to a paper towel. He still thinks therapy can fix everything. LOL. He tried to surprise me once. Flowers, chocolates, the works. Like a rom-com reject." There it was. The secret motivation. She hadn't just stopped loving me. She'd started mocking me, resenting me for trying. Every act of kindness, every attempt to fix things, it didn't make her feel guilty. It made her feel superior. Carolyn didn't just cheat. She needed me to feel small for believing we could be saved. When I left the house, I didn't feel rage. I felt contaminated. Like I needed to scrub off 6 years of belief, rinse myself of every shared joke, every blanket we cuddled under, every memory that now felt manufactured. That night, I changed every password, every PIN, locked down my bank accounts, and booked a meeting with the most expensive divorce lawyer Mark could find. Lucas. When I showed him the screenshots, the texts, the images, he didn't blink. "You're going to be fine," he said, tapping a pen against his desk. "She made one mistake." "What's that?" "She underestimated how much evidence a betrayed man can collect." I stood in front of the courthouse bathroom mirror one morning, adjusting the knot on my tie like I used to before work presentations. Only this time, I wasn't prepping for a budget meeting. I was about to face the woman who tried to ruin me, and was still trying. That mirror reminded me of another one. The one in our bedroom, the one I bought her for Christmas. She'd called it the mirror with the good light. Back then, it was romantic, me measuring wall studs, hammering, trying to impress her with my fake handyman skills. She'd kissed me afterward, lipstick smudging my cheek, and told me, "This is why I married you." That mirror saw everything. It saw her smile at other men while she told me she was going through a rough patch. It saw her dance in a towel while texting strangers. And on the day I caught her cheating, it saw me, the man in the doorway with flowers wilting in his hand, turn into someone I didn't recognize. I think that mirror holds a version of me I left behind. Lucas had warned me. She's going to drag this out. It won't be fair. But keep your head. We're playing chess, not boxing. Carolyn delayed every meeting. Changed the locks on our joint storage unit. Claimed she couldn't remember our banking passwords. One time she arrived 45 minutes late to mediation, in full makeup and a blazer, sipping Starbucks like she was heading to brunch. I sat there watching her smile at her lawyer like none of it mattered. Meanwhile, I'd lost 10 pounds, stopped sleeping, and couldn't concentrate at work. My boss gave me a formal warning about productivity, and my doctor wrote me a prescription for anxiety. And then, there was Emma. I didn't meet her on Tinder or Bumble. I met her in a bookstore, of all places. I was trying to find something to read, something to distract myself from the legal minefield and the existential ache that had taken root in my ribs. She was standing by the science fiction shelf, holding a copy of Hyperion, and she laughed when I muttered, "I don't even know where to start." Her laugh wasn't flirty or mocking. It was kind. We sat in the bookstore's corner reading area for 2 hours, trading recommendations and theories about alien civilizations. She told me her favorite author was Liu Cixin. I told her mine was Philip K. Dick. We both loved the idea of alternate realities. I remember thinking, what if this moment, is mine? After 6 years with a woman who weaponized silence, Emma listened. Really listened. She asked follow-up questions. She remembered things. She laughed at my dry jokes and didn't once glance at her phone while I spoke. It felt like discovering warmth after months of winter. I told her on our first real date that I was going through a divorce. I expected her to retreat. Instead, she said, "At least you're not hiding your luggage. That's rare these days." She toasted with her wine and smiled. Just like that, the shame I'd carried started to loosen. Emma didn't save me. That's too romantic. But she reminded me who I used to be. Before the suspicion, before the accusations. Before I measured my self-worth against how loud Carolyn sighed during our arguments. There was one night, about 3 months in, when we were watching a movie on her couch. She had fallen asleep with her head on my shoulder, and I realized I was crying. Silently. One of those slow, weird, involuntary breakdowns. I didn't even know why. Emma stirred. "Hey," she whispered groggily. "Nightmare." "Sort of," I said. "You're safe," she murmured, and pulled the blanket up around us. "You're safe." When was the last time I'd felt that? With Carolyn, every disagreement was a landmine. Every silence, a trap. I'd learned to tiptoe through my own marriage. Emma let me exist. But Carolyn didn't stop. She kept filing motions. Disputing old electric bills. Arguing about the toaster. It was a parade of petty cruelty. She wanted to win something. Anything. And then came the Saturday. Emma and I were walking back to her car after a lunch date. Talking about movies. Laughing. That's when I heard the engine. There are sounds you never forget. The screech of rubber. The rev of a car pushed past logic. The instant, soul-freezing realization that someone is trying to hurt you. Not metaphorically, not emotionally, but literally kill you. I turned just in time to see the car hurtling toward us. Toward Emma. I pulled her, but not fast enough. Her leg caught the bumper. The sound was wet, sickening, like snapping celery underwater. She screamed, and I caught her before she hit the ground. And then the car came back. The tires squealed. Metal crunched. People screamed. I dragged Emma between 2 parked cars, ignoring her cries of pain. I kept my body over hers, heart pounding, vision narrowing. The car slammed into the vehicle shielding us. Alarms went off. Shouts everywhere. Then the door opened. Carolyn stepped out. Hair curled. Lipstick perfect. Like she was headed to a conference. My brain refused to believe it. This wasn't a moment of rage. This was planned. Premeditated. The woman I once married had followed us. Waited for the right moment. And tried. Twice. To kill us. And she almost succeeded. Emma screamed my name when I pulled her between the parked cars. That's what haunts me most. Not the crash. Not the sight of Carolyn stepping out in her work blazer like a polished executive instead of a would-be murderer. No, it's the sound of Emma's voice cracking open when her leg snapped. That one syllable. Nat. Like she was still trying to protect me. even while bleeding on the pavement. I remember looking up from Emma's trembling body and watching Carolyn approach, her heels tapping like a metronome of doom. Her eyes weren't wide with panic. They weren't even teary. They were empty, still, focused. It was like watching someone possessed. Thank God for the man who tackled her. A former cop, he said later. Just a guy loading groceries into his trunk with his daughter when he saw a car fly into the lane and take a girl down like a bowling pin. I knew something was wrong when she backed up, he told police. That wasn't panic. That was precision. Carolyn screamed as he held her down. About betrayal. About how I had ruined her. About that woman. Emma. The woman she didn't know. The woman whose only crime was loving me back to life. Police cars arrived within minutes. The chaos turned clinical, flashing lights, sirens, stretchers. EMTs rushed Emma into an ambulance while I sat beside her, gripping her hand and promising through clenched teeth that she'd be okay. She smiled through the morphine. At least I got out of that movie you wanted to watch. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Carolyn, meanwhile, was still shrieking as they loaded her into the back of a cruiser. I wasn't myself. You made me do this. Her voice cracked with a strange combination of desperation and satisfaction, like she thought the drama would earn her sympathy. The courthouse became my second home after that. First, the prosecutors called. Then came the police interviews, victim support groups, more lawyer meetings. Carolyn had gone from adulterous wife to attempted murderer in under a year, and the justice system now had its claws sunk into her. And yet, the hardest part was the hospital. Emma's leg had been fractured in 3 places. Metal pins. Surgery. Months of PT ahead. I sat by her bedside each night while she drifted in and out of sleep, doped on painkillers and still trying to joke. She called Carolyn Cruella to drive by. She didn't cry much. But once, at 3:30 a.m., she whispered, "Does it make me pathetic that I still want to believe there's a reason? Like, maybe she thought she was protecting you from me." I took her hand. That woman doesn't understand protection. She only knows possession. That's what it had always been. Carolyn didn't love me. She owned me. And when I walked away, she didn't feel heartbreak. She felt theft. Her trial began 3 months later. The prosecution came loaded. Footage from every angle. Security videos showing her circling the parking lot like a shark. The way she waited. How she angled her car, stepped on the gas. You could even see her fixing her lipstick in the rearview mirror before impact. Emma testified like a warrior. Calm. Poised. No tears, just facts. She told the jury how she saw the car. How her leg folded. How she heard the engine rev again and knew Carolyn wasn't finished. Then I took the stand. I talked about the texts. The mirror. The day I found Carolyn in bed with another man. I told them everything. From therapy to threats to the final moment where I looked into my wife's eyes and saw nothing human looking back. Carolyn cried in court. Of course she did. Tissues, sniffles, soft voice. I wasn't myself, she said. I loved him. I just couldn't take seeing him with someone else. But her love looked a lot like homicide. The jury didn't buy it. They found her guilty on all counts: attempted murder, aggravated assault, reckless endangerment. And then came sentencing. 12 years. Just 12. Not enough to feel like justice, but enough to sleep at night. She could be out in less than 10 with good behavior. I watched her as they cuffed her wrists. She looked at me. Not hatefully, not remorsefully, just hollow. Like she'd finally reached the end of her script and didn't know what lines came next. I didn't wave. I didn't nod. I just watched them take her away. Lucas leaned over and whispered, "Well, at least we won't be arguing about silverware anymore." Funny thing is, he was right. The divorce proceedings that had dragged on for months, delays, lies, document games, ended in a flash once she was behind bars. The judge saw the footage. He read the criminal case. He looked at her, now appearing via video call in an orange jumpsuit, and made his ruling in 10 minutes flat. No alimony. No house. No 401k. Just her personal items and whatever she could buy at the prison commissary. The expression on her lawyer's face when the judge said, "You're lucky I'm not charging you for wasting this court's time," was priceless. I left the courthouse that day free. Not just legally. Emotionally. Emma and I found a new place closer to the city. Bright windows. Clean walls. And a bedroom untouched by betrayal. She calls it our plot twist apartment. Our new place is one of those little reading nooks by the window. The kind real estate agents call a cozy corner but which, in reality, is just a ledge with a pillow. Emma calls it her throne. I bring her coffee there on weekends. Sometimes, I just sit across from her and watch her read. Her legs tucked under her, hair in a messy bun, glasses sliding down her nose. She doesn't know that I study her more than the books. I think that's how I know I survived. Not because Carolyn's gone, or the trial ended, or we moved, but because I can still feel awe, still feel love, still sit here and know peace. Emma walks now. No limp, no cane. Just a faint scar on her shin and a story that makes people gasp when they hear it. You're kidding, they say. His ex-wife did that. Emma laughs and lifts her pant leg. She really wanted the last word. We joke now. That's something. But the night terrors still come. One time, she screamed in her sleep. Sat up gasping for air, clutching her leg. I held her until she stopped shaking. And she whispered, "She was aiming for you." I saw it in her eyes. She was trying to take you. That was the worst part. I was the target. Emma was collateral. Carolyn didn't care who she hit, just so long as I hurt. Her logic was poisoned, a cocktail of ego and obsession. She hadn't tried to win me back. She'd tried to erase me, punish me, make sure no one else got what she thought belonged to her. That's what haunts you about being loved by someone like Carolyn. It feels real at first, deep, consuming, but it's only love if it lets you go. Hers was a trap, one she couldn't let fail. The restraining order is ironclad. Emma's dad, a firearms instructor, made sure we both got concealed carry permits. I keep mine locked in a box by the bed. Never thought I'd be that kind of guy. Now, I don't think I ever was. I just know I'm not naive anymore. Some people told me I dodged a bullet. I didn't. It grazed us. It broke Emma's leg. It shredded months of our lives. And it still echoes in parking lots and late-night silences. But it missed our hearts. A few months after Carolyn's sentencing, I proposed to Emma in the bookstore where we met. I tucked the ring inside a copy of The Three-Body Problem. She cried and said yes. Not because it was perfect. Not because we were unscathed. But because we survived. She'll never be just the girl who got hit by my ex. She's the girl who stayed. Who healed. Who looked up from the pavement, saw madness staring down at her, and decided not to run from me. Not once. And that kind of love doesn't just fill the holes Carolyn left. It plants gardens in them. I don't tell this story for pity, or revenge, or views. I tell it because some of you are still in the house where you've stopped being seen. Still ignoring the cracks in the mirror. Still making excuses for yelling, for lies, for bruises you can't name. Let me say this, as a man who's been in both kinds of love. When someone hurts you and calls it passion, it's poison. When someone saves your life just by listening, that's love. And when someone tries to kill you because they couldn't control you, that's not the end of your story. That's the beginning.